that the internet was doing okay. Oh, look at that. Look at that girl. Look at that perfect child. Gazing upwards. I really need to move the chair, but it's fine. It's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to put on just some music on my headphones because here's the thing. There are important rules about even if I picked music that was free to use, sometimes you get flagged. And so that's why I'm just not going to do music. At least not this time. Maybe in future ones where I do something like this, I'll do music. But for now, here we go. Okay, we'll give this another try. Now, like I said, with blocking, you can do a few different things. Now, some people will straight up pencil on here. White is one choice that you can make, but I don't want it to shine through. White is easy to go over, but we're also going to be wet painting, and so I need to be careful about the colors that I put down. And yes, green isn't going to blend well with browns, but we're going to do a lot of green backgrounds in certain ways. I do want kind of wooded trees, and I do want to be able to layer things well. So down here on just let's go down to the palette just for a second. So I'm putting a little bit of the green, and I'm going to put a little bit, some of these are a little tight. This is another reason to thin it if you have paint that's still good, but it's gotten a little bit thicker over time from disuse. We've got that. Now, things like this are going to evaporate a lot. So here we go. And you can see that this is really softening this guy up. But also, here we go. And see, this is great because we don't actually need to use a ton of the actual paint just yet. We've really thinned this out. And this is what I'm going to use kind of for our blocking. Now, I want to make sure that my legs have plenty of room. And looking at my example, let's see, we want to find our third and our third, which is going to be about there. And then what I want is I almost want our deer's eyes a bit below this. I want this to be the crown of green type thing up here. And so just very, very delicately blocking this in. Oh, and I've got this in the wrong place. Now you guys won't be able to see this as well, but again, I want to be able to see this, but I don't want it to be seen through what I do later, right? So we've got kind of his antlers coming down. He's got his points coming up like this. And this definitely comes out a little bit more like that. And then we've got a thicker one out here. Got a little guy here. There. That doesn't belong there. This. And we can add a little bit more color if we need to be able to see it better. There we go. Got that, and then this is going to come way out like this, up. And again, this is supposed to be delicate blocking. I just need to kind of have a good idea of this space that I'm working with here. And we've got to fit our skull into here, which is why we've got our thin one here, we've got another one here, But we need, is that going to be big enough for our skull? That's what I need to decide. And I think so. I don't want to make it bigger. I can do him a bit smaller. If there's a better size for this, this is again a thing that practice helps a lot on. Is that you kind of figure out, oh, you know what? While that was great, the skull really should have been bigger or something like that. But we've got our crown here. And then right below here, and we can see here down, we drop down, and that's about where his muzzle is. Again, just very, very general here, because we can do more details. We've got the eye coming right below there. We've got his neck coming out like this. And he has a very deep chest like this. And then you can see just a hair of his other leg come through. And then there's a lot of him is covered, so the anatomy is a little trickier, but that's okay. Like, again, this is to do, not necessarily to do well. Sure, do we want to do things well? Yeah. Are we always going to do them well? Nah, but we can try, and that's kind of the point. And I can add in kind of all of, okay, so I can see he's got kind of these curtains of, you know, ferns back here, but this is just very general blocking, and again, this isn't even going to really be seen later. It's mostly to help me kind of figure out also what I want to do with the colors, with the contrast. And so we've got some light bits, we've got some dark bits, we've got some thin bits, we've got some thick bits. Like there are areas where you can't even see through everything that is on him, and there are some parts where it's just a few little leaves draped, and you can see his anatomy through them. So let's see. So we come here a little bit. He's got thick neck. Got that thick booty. No, this is the chest kind of shape here that I'm trying to get. And here we've got his shoulder drops down here. You can see a little bit of the curve of it. And you can see some of the muscles too. This is what shapes are really useful for keeping track of kind of how the muscles sit and where the bones are at. It helps to have knowledge of skeletons and musculature and things like that. I'm no expert, so don't trust me. You can see that their legs definitely aren't quite this thick, but that's okay because I will be touching things up here as well. Like that. Also, think it real nice and thin. Here. And then you can see just a titch of the leg through. But we're going to have a lot of ferns come down here too. Now, a good idea to do if you're not going to do exactly the same kind of thing, find more references of the animal at other angles, at the same angle, to get a real good feel for the anatomy and shape of them. Let's see. Now again, I'm using a ton of freaking odorless paint thinner here so that we're not actually getting that much color on the canvas here. So we've got this. You can see kind of that come up there. Now the shape of his body, you get kind of a very flat effect here, and then his haunches come down here. And I'm trying to give myself a better reference than I did before. That's why I'm going a little bit slowly. And you can't even really see his tail a lot because it's mostly like a little bit of the fluff. Keep in mind that deer like this, another thing that you can do some research on is your actual, creature that you're studying. You do want to kind of see how things are stepping. You don't want to end up with him tilted up like this. So I'm looking at, I've got my knees here, you know, with him up here. And I want to make sure that, now in the picture he is slanted a little bit, so it's okay, but we don't want to end up a ton more slanted and then end up with a deer that looks wonky, essentially. But we've got that. It's kind of a very straight shot here. I was going to say, you can do more research on the actual subjects of whatever you're painting. For reference, deer, when they're like this, when they've got their horns like, their horns, god damn it, their antlers, when they've got their antlers like this, generally it's rutting season or about then. He definitely has sharpened his antlers a ton, and so the males do get a little bit thinner during this period, so you're not going to see as much fat on him because he's probably nursemating a bunch of does. Let's see, and then let's get this really nice. Yeah. And again, I'm checking kind of where these are. This one is a little bit higher. But we want to make sure that we don't, again, make a wonky deer. Now his little hoovies do disappear. Now, something that might be fun to do with this is we've got all of these ferns coming down, we've got grasses we can do, but now I need to consider kind of the blocking for the rest of the painting as well. Now, some things we can do is we can consider some of our other focal points. You can also consider kind of snooty things like, well, I guess it's not really snooty, it's the golden ratio or things like that. Those are real effects. Mathematical things are pleasant to our brains to look at and to consider. So keep that in mind. Looking at him here, do I like where my focal point is? My focal point has ended up being more at about where his eye is, and I'm good with that. I'm happy with that too. I was going to make it more kind of the crown, but we're going to get some backlighting here, a little bit of the top and things like that. So it's all good. Yeah, I've got some ferns coming down him. We'll want some delicate. So we'll want to make sure to get his fur really nice there, but then we've got a little bit thicker ferns dangling here. I just want two little wisps. Just as an idea. Now, again, we've got that. Now, one thing that's also a good idea is we could look at the size of a human in comparison to a deer. So, red deer, deer, size to human. And ideally, hey, look at that. So our head, hey, our skull would nestle really nicely in there. Isn't that a delight? Isn't that that's delightful? Yeah, it is. That's delightful. Let's see. I'm looking at that skull. Yeah, so the head is literally going to fit perfectly in there. I think I'm going to try to keep... one thing that can be a problem in art is you can get a lot of intersecting lines, and that can get confusing. Ugh, let's bring this up again. And so you do want to be careful, but up here on the actual painting, we're getting weird lighting from the computer. My apologies. Yeah. We definitely want our skull to nestle there. Got little eyes, just very roughly. Yeah. And we'll block this out way more after. So I do like the idea of making it almost seem like the light is coming from there through trees or something like that, but I'm also not a great painter, so maybe I should just use our reference material. We've got trees back there. I don't want anything to pull away from this area and make it too busy. So it's almost a good idea. Let's see, we don't want, again, colors being too much of an issue, but if we get a nice gray in there, we do have a big old tree coming down. I do want to see maybe it come up like this. Now we're going to have the cascading branches though there, which is kind of a good thing. And we'll want to make sure to make anything in the background a little bit more dull, or at least to keep our focus up here, we don't want to make anything too fancy in the background. I mean, you can do that. The nice thing about paintings that isn't like photography is you can make everything in focus if you want it that way. If you want it that way. If that's your style. Let's see. I do like some of the yellows up here, but it's also probably going to take away from our dude. Oh, yeah, Pygmalion. Oh, it's that girl. Let's see. Again, we've got, so it comes up like this. Let's get a little bit more pigment here. Just a little bit. 1, 2. I do like the backlit ferns in here, so getting them a little bit prepped isn't a bad thing to get this drying a little bit. Not a lot because we've still got to do our fur and things like that. This is where I'm just going to start getting a few, just an idea of what's going on. And man, the camera can't even really pick it up easily. It is very dark, so it's not just you guys. I feel bad. Shine on here. Okay. Well, let's get a little bit more of this stuff going on. Let's get our pig camera set up a little bit better too. There we go. Okay. So to brighten things up with oils, it's a good idea to brighten things not just with straight up white or to darken them with straight black. So you've got to know, like with your color theory, obviously, or with oils, brightening the color. Let's look at this. How to lighten bright colors. How do you make a color brighter? Yes. Yeah, some knowledge of colors that are complementary. So this is saying like I've got the red background and I'm using the green. That's one way to make things stand out more. Yeah, use thin layers. They're saying, how can I lighten it without white? Yeah, so they're saying use things like cadmium yellow. You can experiment a little bit. I've got some cadmium yellow here. So let's get a little bit of that out here. Now we want to do more background before we really do details and things like that. That's important too. But for instance, things that we might need to brighten. And then down here, I think it's a good idea for us to get, I need to get a bigger brush. That's what I need to get. Let's get some layers going on down here because we've got a lot of stuff that's going to be showing through because we're still using very thin layers, and there was a little bit of a texture to this when I washed the painting because I don't know what I'm doing. But that is what we try to do. I almost want our eyes to be pulled in. So I almost want to darken coming in just a little bit. Get a little bit of shade coming off of him, but not a ton. Here what I can do is I can also make some nice like floofy grasses and things like that. But, for instance, so we get some of this coming in. And remember, we'll do thicker layers for more texture later, but what I can do is I can pull in more of the green coming back. Or I could add in a little bit of blue, or you can add a little bit of anything really. But I definitely want to get a little bit more of a foresty green background going on. I know we're going to have some beiges as well, but we want that grass to stand out well. And so for it to stand out, you need to have some different things. I also like having a little bit of a lighter thing up against that belly will help us really kind of see more of a silhouette effect. Let's see. Getting a little bit of that yellow up here. And blending, because you can always add more on top. Let's see. I also want my strokes to kind of match what's going on over here. And if I overlap a little bit into these lines, that's actually a good thing, because when I come back over our deer, we want them to stand out a little bit. It's better if you can get it right up against, but it's going to be kind of tough with a big brush like this. Let's see. This is way too bright for there. The other thing is, if me attempting anything realistic goes poorly, you can always do something a little bit less realistic. Like, if I really wanted to, I could just make a very generic background and do a study focusing on the deer and on the ferns and things like that. But I would like to attempt an actual background. I know, gasp. We're gonna blend up into here. We've got some of the bushes coming up there. Ba-ba-ba. Let's see. And again, we're gonna be doing lots and lots of layers. Let's just come in here, and the way we're gonna come in, now we're going to want to add a little bit more yellow back here to kind of reflect the fact that there's some brightness up behind. And I've definitely gone a little bit over his haunches where I didn't intend to. That's okay. What I can do for that is I can fix that. You can also even just straight up check this out. Hell yeah. Just wipe it off. I do this with oil paints. Maybe this isn't an oil paint thing, but you can definitely scrape things off if you need to. Let's look at his haunches again, make sure we've got good match for what's going on. We've got this comes up, this kind of flattens. I'm looking at our model, get kind of a little bit of a flat long. There we go. Yeah. Bring in some more brightness back here because we're going to have these ferns. And I can even just straight up go like blend, blend, blend. So the reason why I'm not going all the way up here too with our brightness, so I'm kind of using the background behind the deer in the foreground to help delineate and set apart his body with contrast. But we've got some darkness in the background up here, which is a good thing because I want to really highlight those antlers and give some good lighting on the crown up here and things like that. So we need to leave this dark up here because when we do his antlers and everything, they're going to be bright, so they're going to pop. And that's going to really help our focus come up here. It's because, yeah, his body's here and it's going to be a little bit dark and things like that, but this is just going to be like, kapow! I hope. Who knows? we'll see how it turns out in next time. No, just kidding. I'm going to try to actually go for a little while on this. We'll see how long I can go. But this is probably going to end up a 2 or a 3-parter eventually. So I'm just trying to get some nice, smooth background to work with as we move on. And we will have more grasses and things like that. You can leave some of this brownish red peeking through down here. You can even smear some of it away for texture if you want. But I want something to work with for the most part that helps keep everything else look real nice and even. And that means that we do have to start using thicker amounts of paint and less of our paint thinner, because we're just smearing at this point. You either have to let it dry and then come back and add more layers, or you have to start using a slightly thicker mixture. And we want to do a little bit of both here because, again, we're painting some stuff wet. If we need to, I can do things in more episodes. Like, if I have to, I'm going to leave something alone. Because that's better for the practice rather than just doing a bad job the first time. It's better to do something right the first time if you can, and if you can't, you know what's great about oil? You can paint over it. It's just harder to paint over dark colors. And I know that sounds backwards with me starting with a really dark color on my background, but it was something I wanted very specifically to do for the effect. And we want to make sure that we're coming in on this leg really nicely. Since this is our base coat, we really want it to help us with our contrast. Yeah. A little bit more. Go slow if you need to, or go fast and just be happy you're doing anything. Doing anything at all is good. I'm 31, you know, it's like any 16-year-old who comes out here and does any paintings at all is already 15 years ahead of me. So just do the things you want to do. I do like how we're getting this glow going here. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll intentionally blur my eyes out of focus so I can kind of get a sense for how this is coming. I'm getting a little bit of his shadow coming here, which I like. And this needs to change a little bit. I need to decide exactly what I'm doing here. If we're doing mounds, if we want flowers, if we want bushes, if we just want to do layers of grasses up here. I almost like the idea of, I don't know if I want to do stones with moss on them, but I do kind of like that. I'll stop fiddling with this in just a second and actually start working on the trees in the background. Okay. Why do oil painters wear gloves? Here, let's go back to our human skull. There we go. That's nice. Okay. Just tidying up just a tad. Because I really made a mess with all my green down here. I'm not tidy, but I try. Here we go. Oh, yeah. I'm also tidying up my 2 paintbrushes I've used a little bit so far. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now we've got to look at some of the other colors that we need in here. We don't want to get too bright in the background, but we do want to get what looks like a little bit of blues and grays kind of going on for our trees, just to help them kind of come out a little bit without them being too dark. And we probably want to deepen some aspects of this. Now, I did say you want to avoid using too much white and black. That doesn't mean you never use them, for the record. But do go sparsely. And again, it's like, do your layers. Go in layers. I'm just going to keep repeating myself. What I should have done is I should have turned on a podcast, not music. I'm going to pull out just a little bit of blue. Not a ton. A little bit of brown. Oh, should I be saying what colors I'm using? Like our Lord and Savior, Bob Ross. Let's see, we've got black, just straight up black. It's one of the cheaper ones that I was just pulling out. I've got Cerulean Blue from Utrecht, and I've got Master's Touch Raw Umber. Yes, very, very, very excellent. And then I did pull out kind of the cadmium red, a lighter version of it, because we're going to be hitting up our deer a little bit as well. Just a little bit. Oh, this does not want to close now that it's open. Hint, that's fun with screw chops. If you've got it on the wrong track, go in reverse. Oh dear. Unless we've literally broken this cap. Possibly. Hey, there we go. Okay, so there are those. And then, like I said, a bit of hay. I think Pygmalion ate a bird today, and she just farted something awful, and I just gasped because I have phthalo blue. You know, the epic. Well, this is a light phthalo. Phthalo blue. Oh no, it's not. That was just the cap. Phthalo blue. Yeah. That's what the Lord and Savior uses, Bob Ross. Then I will pull out just a touch of white. Just a touch, not a lot. Zinc titanium. Just the smallest touch, because we might be using it in other spaces. I don't want to go extreme on this. The plug on this is intense. There we go. That was more than I intended, but doesn't matter. I am unable to close a lid today. That's the lesson. Okay, so looking at the brushes, I do want to use kind of, that one's a little too big. Let's not do this one. Yes. Something nice blue color. That I kind of want mixed into the darkness of this burnt umber. A little bit more black. And you want to do it gradually, so if you can't see very well. Okay, we won't do that. But, oh, hey, Pumpkin! You want to go gradually when you're mixing your colors, because you might need a little bit of a previously mixed color, or you might like something for your lowlights or something for your highlights. Today is read the fucking manual, Pumpkin, and we're doing oil painting, although I'm not like a pro or anything like that, so it's read the fucking manual. So we read instructions. I do know a little bit about oil painting, but not a lot, and so that's just something to keep in mind. I really just started this with the canvas that I'd already brushed with this very dark color, and I did that previously for good reason. Yes, we're just adding more layers, and we do want to be careful because wet painting is a little bit different than letting things dry a ton. Bob Ross is known for wet painting, and so it's probably what a lot of people have seen, but it's not all that natural to painting. Let's see. It also doesn't help that I'm sure every time the light hits, I know that this isn't super convenient for the watchers. I tried doing it a little bit less, like I tried angling it a few different ways, but we were getting mixed results. So we'll get there. How are you doing though? Let's see, as I just babble. I am going to pull a lot more of this raw umber, and I'm going to pull in more of the phthalo blue. Now mine is spelled Thalo, whereas our Lord and Savior Bob Ross, his is always spelled with a P, and I don't know if it's just ignorant people who misspelled the paint I have, or if mine is like some sort of off-brand fake phthalo blue, but it doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. We've got phthalo blue. You know what? I do almost want to. Okay. I want to get under here just a little bit. Mostly I'm just being very cautious and slow. You pick up things bit by bit. The point of read the fucking manual, I think I told you, RTFM, is definitely just to do. If you want to try something, it does, like, you don't have to keep doing things. If you just want to try something and see if you like it, freaking do it. Just do it. Although I've heard some bad news about Shia LaBeouf, and I can't be as positive about him anymore. But there are two sides to a story. And I do want to, sorry, I'm trying to see a little bit in here. That means I'm coming in. We are going to do a ton of stuff in there, but I want to get a really nice, I need to get a gradient kind of going here, and I don't really have a gradient coming in. With oil paint, there's this weird thing that you do where you actually want to avoid using too much black or white to darken or lighten. You want to use other colors, because when you use white and black to do things like that, you're not having as much actual color there. There's all of these pigments and things like that. You really want to kind of shine, and you get better effects mixing actual colors than you do just straight up black and white. And I've definitely used a little that not to say that you shouldn't ever use black. Let's be clear. I do want to kind of come in and darken our little friend's chest area here. And that's what we do. We just build our layers bit by bit. We know his muzzle's going to be there. We want his muzzle to stick out well, and we want to be able to add some of those fur tones really nicely on top of our shades. We lost a little bit of the edge of his leg there, especially the front of his leg here. I'm going for more kind of a backlit kind of effect, so this is definitely going to get lightened up a bit. But as you can see, his fur is colored dark there. We'll just have to kind of work on it. The actual shadow is on the underside of the leg here. Like in here. I'm going to darken this. Reusing colors in other areas of your painting also help kind of keep the tones matching. If you find that you're getting kind of disjointed, like your color palette didn't really come together, you're not mixing kind of the same colors together, and so it's like they're not really matching against one another, sometimes what you can do is you can do like a very, very thin wash of an entire color over a painting. It's kind of, but the problem with that is you'll get a little bit of an effect, kind of like a movie that uses a night filter, and so you do want to be careful. Oh my gosh, and the pig cam isn't on the pig anymore. Well, she's in a tricky position. You're in a tricky spot, my girl. Sighs and rolls over. My lovely child. Let's see. It seems like it's struggling to focus. Also, here we do. Yeah, let's come in a little closer. There we go. Okay. So layers. It's all about those layers, yo. This isn't going to stay. Really thin layer there. But most of our friend needs to darken here. A little bit up here coming from under his crown because we're going to have a bunch of lighting coming down there. We've got our eyes. Yeah. A little bit there. So I'm just trying to define some of these parts of them just a little bit better. Get touches of what our lighting is going to kind of be like, given a little more time. Yeah. Okay. It's all about those layers. It's like cake layers. He got that cake. Okay. Let's see. And back to our forest. What you been up to, pumpkin? All about the... Yes. Oh, you're watching Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows. Oh, man. Well, this is not on theme exactly or anything like that. But, yes. Oh, that's delightful. Yeah, you've been... Didn't you just start getting through kind of the whole thing? Or is it your first time watching it, or are you kind of going back for a rewatch? Let's see, still blocking. Let's see. These are such thin colors, too. I should really start thickening it up just a little bit. A little bit more raw umber. Yeah, we'll definitely need more raw umber. We need a nice dark green, too. Let's pull out this guy. Some of these are older, and so you gotta kind of try to get them to come out. I can actually lighten up that umber even with that green, muddy it a little bit. You do get glimmers of light in the background in our example picture, but I really want a lot of darkness here so that when I do the antlers and the ferns up here that they really pop, because I'm going to make those really nice and bright the way that I've made his body dark here but the background a little bit lighter, which I'm just repeating myself at this point, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, so that. And yes, gasp, a little bit of black. A little bit of black. Not a lot. Oh. Let's get more phthalo blue. Yeah, phthalo blue. This is the shit. Oh, man, I forgot that you really liked Harry Potter. I know that you've been watching it and things like that, but yeah. Harry, I don't want to drink. So I just think of Dumbledore. It's okay, sir. It's okay, sir. Let's see. We're gonna get some thicker colors here. Hi, Pig. What you doing? Don't eat anything you're not supposed to. What you doing? Okay, you're just licking cloth. These cloths are mostly actually clean, so it's not like she can actually get at anything poisonous. Can you imagine? I'd be so sad. Okay. Now we've got that tree, but we really need to brighten up this part of the tree. Just right. And then I'm playing music on my headphones, but I'm trying to, I didn't play it in other things because I don't want to. I did use some music that is supposed to be free to use to play, and I got not snapped once. I got like a warning once on it, and so I'm just kind of avoiding that. Okay, now let's pull in some of this. We need more phthalo blue in that. Some very clear background versus foreground kind of going on. And I know that's really shiny and you can't tell. There we go. Yeah. This is interesting because this is actually helping me kind of see what's going on. Yeah, let me just do this the whole time. Let's get a little bit more of that phthalo blue and olive green in here. Because you can always add more details. You can add more details. But if I make this background too bright initially, then my contrast for everything else is going to be shot. You know what I mean? You definitely need a little bit more olive green here. This almost looks like two separate trees, so I'm going to have to blend that a little bit better because that's supposed to be one big old tree. And then over here. Hilarious. Do you appreciate this? Just, you killed Sirius Black. Oh yeah. Yeah, look at that. Look at this. She dead. Oh yeah, she dead. Oh my gosh. We only did an hour-long walk. That usually does not do it all the way for her. My child is tired. Let's see. Let's see. Get more of this olive. That's very phthalo. I feel like that's very halo. That's what it feels like I'm saying. Even if it's all very dark, muddled backgrounds, it's a background, right? Now, like I said, you can always add details later. You can always brighten something up if you need to. But it's harder to darken something light. It's harder to paint over something bright. Or do I have that backwards? Is it harder to paint over something dark? Here, you know what? RTFM is all about looking up. Okay, oil paints. Oil paints. Hard to paint over light. Is it possible to paint light tones over dark tones? Do not dry considerably darker, but they can dry more matte. See, that's what these lovely things are for. That, let's see, there's like a satin varnish, there's gloss varnishes. Those help. Let's see. Do you paint dark to light or light to dark? It is easier to see your object develop if you paint in the darkest colors first, then move on to the next value, then the next, and so on. Ha! Yes, my instincts were correct. Oh my god, yes, Pygmalion is my child. She's my baby. Okay, so my instincts were correct. I thought I remembered something. Something. A little something. Let's see. I need to make it easier to see this precious dork. Oh. Here. It's so hard when she's in weird places. Yes, you. I blame you. You precious pig. Ugh. There's her butt. Well, I'll try the corner again. Just be aware, once I get oil paint on something, it stays on it forever. Forever. That's not true, but that's why there are drop cloths all over. Let's see. Okay. Looking at these, I definitely need to blend this a little bit more. Let's wipe off our brush a little bit. I'm a little wasteful with paint. Don't be like me, kids. Just a little wasteful with paint. I try not to be. Man, I need to get one of those camera arms attached to the desk that has just a wide swinging motion, because if I could put it up like this, I promise I would. I promise I would. But you're just gonna get all the glitter. All that glitters, at least for now. Oh, I'm sorry about the lag. You take care, Pumpkin. Thank you so much for coming by. Oh, precious Pygmalion. Precious Pygmalion. Let's see. Get a little bit of this in here. It still looks like two separate trees. How annoying. We do need to lighten it up just a tad. Hmm. And this is why textures are helpful to help delineate. Okay, so we've got a tree, but what's all this junk here? This is where, if we lighten this up a little bit, it can help a lot. Hmm. See, adding little bits of detail just to help start to separate this, but we don't want to go too ham yet because things are wet. Yeah. We've got this portion. Just little bits. Things that we can elaborate on later. We want this to match a little bit more over here, so we want to break up some of this. I can also see, almost went a little too ham over here. I know it doesn't really look matching. We almost have to bring in some more dark again. I just want the suggestion of branches. Let's see. And I can start kind of trying to underline parts of this. I'm just like holding this, sorry. Definitely want a little bit. Just a little bit more suggestion, just a tad, to break up the monotony back there, but not enough to draw our eyes away when we do stuff up front, essentially. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, we'll go with that for now. There, again, we can alter it. Man, really need to get a camera arm. Now, I do also want to start adding in some texture changes up here too. Just a little bit. Here we go. And we definitely want some darker colors under here, but we don't want to go ham yet. Just going with the suggestions of things. And I am kind of making up some of this stuff up here. I'm definitely not going to be able to duplicate the painting or the picture I'm looking at, but that's not the goal here. Let's see. And some of the bushes back there are a lot darker, almost bluer than up here. We do want kind of this brighter bit here because we'll have ferns that are backlit, and so that's what that's giving us there. But I do want to add a little bit more detail coming forward up here. And against these trees too. Start getting some irregular edging coming in. And then having parts of your brush have darker and lighter helps you actually have some, bring up some edges, whereas you're having some deeper parts as well. You just kind of have to, I sucked at this and still do for a long time. You just kind of gotta practice, go for it. And again, if you mess up, you can always paint over things or scrape it off. That is also an option with oil paint. It's just straight up scraping it off. And here I'm almost kind of taking away some of the light green and revealing some of that brownish red underneath in this area. That's almost what's happening there. And I kind of want to blend a little bit more here so that this seems more like part of one thing. We want to make sure over here where we've made it a little bit, we don't want it to blend too much with the immediate background there, but we're just kind of starting our texturing here. We can get more detailed if we need to, but again, I'm not a super good painter, and so most of my detail I want to be our deer and the skull that's going to be in his antlers. And so just start slow, and kind of what I'm doing is I'm kind of going back and forth, cross-hatching a little bit almost, so that we get more irregular markings. If you just go one way like this, it's a little too regular even if you overlay it. But if you come back the other way, you can make it a little bit more randomized. Just a little bit. Now we do have a little bit, you want to give the occasional highlight on things. We need more yellow, more cadmium yellow. And I'm adding not a straight up border here, but I do want this to stick out from the background a little bit. You can add in bits of other colors to help make it a little less regular. You can give yourself a little bit lighter background like this, and then I can go even lighter on top of it to give us more illusion of coming forward, getting a little bit more light. I can add a little bit of blue in here. I know that seems backwards. We've got green going with yellow, and then I'm using yellow to lighten it up, but then I'm adding a little bit of blue or things like that. And that's because I want to get, you want to use colors for your shading as well as your highlights, using contrast for those things. And the way you want to do that is with other colors. And so picking the appropriate color to be part of the shading is part of this. And here's some phthalo blue coming in here. I'm gonna break it up, merge it in just a little bit. I'm mostly using this one brush because I'm still doing really rough things. But like some people prefer to mix it up a lot more or use textured brushes, and that's definitely something that can help make more of this seem less regular. Like if I do the same textures across the whole painting, it's going to be quite obvious that the entire thing is kind of samey, and you do want to watch out for that. Come in here. I can make kind of the illusion of leaves here, and I can come back in with a smaller brush and add lowlights and highlights to some of these too. We'll blend here. Actually, I really want to pull in even more phthalo. Part of what I'm doing here with more of this is, again, I want to pull our eyes upwards. Now here, we need to make a little bit of a change, almost like it's a different plant. Which means we need to pull in maybe some of our ochre, or olive, not ochre. more blending. We need a nice transfer to our grassy colors here. I'm going to pull in some brown, more yellow. Yeah, there we go. Definitely more olive. Actually, I'm going to do this. Gotta get some matchy match too. Just in terms of, again, using the same color palette across the board to help merge these all together. Now that I've got that really nice bright olive, it almost needs to get brightened up even further. Another thing you can do is you can scrape sometimes. I haven't gone thick enough to scrape. So layers it is. Layers. You want to start at the back. So I want to pull in maybe a slightly smaller brush, even than this one. Almost need more yellow too. Like this. I did pull in a little white here, just a little bit with the yellow. And see, this is the tricky part about painting wet, is this is going to mix with things. And so you've got to be careful. Or you go away and you let it dry, and then you come back later. Also very valid. Now we've got that coming in, but we're going to need even more yellow. That's what we're going to need. Even more. Clean the brushes just a little bit. I'm not going to do the smacky thing that Bob does. would love to, but I don't have a giant studio specifically for painting, in which you fully expect to leave massive amounts of mess everywhere. Okay, let's see, that's one yellow. Let's pull in a different yellow, a little bit more of a golden tone. We'll want to pull in a little bit of the cadmium. Here we go. Trying to get like I said, I'm not very good, but I try. Trying to get really thin blades is actually pretty rough, at least for me. Just trying to get some really nice, delicate grasses going on. A little more blending. I need to bring in some dark. Let's see. And keep in mind, that because of the shading on grass, you're not going to have the same color all the way up from the root. That's the tricky part for me, is trying to get some of those darker colors at the bottom fading in to the lighter colors. Let's see, try to get this broken up a little bit. A little bit of the darker in the little bit more phthalo blue. And you do want to be sparse with the darker bits out here because we still want this to be lighter than in here. A little bit more this nice lime green in here maybe. Let's see. Brand new robot friend. Let's see. Trying to thin these out. But I'm losing detail. See, this is one place where there's this really good advice. Someone once told me that at some point you gotta leave something alone. Because if you overwork something, you're just gonna keep making it worse. Ugh. And I'm not good at tiny bits like this, but I want to be better at it, hence why I try. Here we go. the bad thing and use a little bit more white. And by the bad thing, I mean you just want to be sparse. You want to be a delicate touch with something that's a little stronger. Yeah, it's almost like a little too much almost. Especially since I don't have a super thin brush. I know what I could try to do. So here's what I'll do. If I grab some of this yellow, mixed results. There we go. Yeah, try another tool if something's not working. Shocker. You might get a different result. A little messy. Let's see. If I also do things like this, I can drag from it. go. A little bit better. So that's something I need to work on a little bit more. Well, it is past 10, and while I'd like to keep going on this tonight, especially since I've got a glorious... You know what? I'll do a little bit more grass over here. That's what I'll do. Because we don't want that, all of this oil paint that I've got on here, to dry and go to waste. Layers of darkness in here too. A little bit more green. too. You don't want to get too dark in here. Gotta bring in some lightness. Some of the white again. Bring in some more yellow. We need more yellow. We got a little too much blue going on in here. We can also turn this into something else if we want. Let's see. Backgrounds take forever. Well, I do have to start cleaning up now, and I think cleaning up is going to be the boring part, so I'll stop the stream, but just for now, just get a little bit back on here on our progress. And yeah, I don't have as much yellow as I wanted in there. I do want this to be a very green picture, but I also really wanted the green to pop on him, so I may have to review some of these color choices a little bit, or edit kind of what I'm doing. But we'll get there. And so we've got a good silhouette. We've got a good background going on. Well, we've got a good start. Oh, Andrea, you were still here. You're an angel. I love you. I hope you have a lovely night. Also, I can just call you Desolus if you want. On stream, I'm such a dip. No, anyway, I love you. Talk to you later. Bye. Oh,